And for all the concern about the First Amendment, I mean, they're apoplectic, Jesse. What about all the amendments that Charlie Kirk lost?
Hey guys, welcome in. Join us for the video for another quick hit style video where I take on breaking news, viral clips, and in shorter form videos. And this video is potentially the start of my villain origin story, my villain arc, because I might crash out. I might end up in a dark place after this, because many prominent Republicans and conservative political commentators are, in light of the Jimmy Kimmel stuff, him being taken off air, and in light of the Charlie Kirk stuff, which of course we've covered how horrifying his murder was in so many facets on this channel, but some people on the right are literally like, nah, the First Amendment was dumb anyway all along. And I feel like I'm going insane. I'm going to play you a clip featuring Kayleigh McEnany from Fox News with Jesse Waters, where she said something I still can't believe she actually said that the free speech warriors would actually say something like this, that I was on Fox dozens and dozens and dozens of times during the Biden administration, specifically talking about their attacks on free speech. And now you have prominent Fox personalities being like, nah, that free speech First Amendment thing was dumb anyway. Listen to this.
You know, it's funny. Kimmel's saying it's our guy that shot Charlie. It's probably his guy that shot Charlie. I mean, I don't know if he was a fan of Jimmy Kimmel, but, you know, to go out there and pin assassinations like that falsely when we all know the facts, you can't do that. You can't do that in this country. You can't do it anywhere. It's just a shame. And he should know better as a grown man in show business. People are acting like, you know, he's just some homeless guy screaming things on the corner. This guy is at ABC. When's the last time ABC tolerated much, let alone this?
Right. You know, I'm watching some of the liberal networks. I've never heard them care about the Constitution so much. Their First Amendment. This has nothing to do with the First Amendment. This has to do with the business decision, as you noted. And for all the concern about the First Amendment, I mean, they're apoplectic, Jesse. What about all the amendments that Charlie Kirk lost? Because Charlie Kirk has no amendments right now, none. And the outrage I see over Jimmy Kimmel, I wish I would have seen that for the death of a father and a husband who should still be here.
Yeah, they got their priorities all out of whack, and it's not going well.
Well, first of all, there's so much here to unpack. First off, Jesse Waters is just wrong. You can do that. You can say inaccurate things on air, even on, you know, the original network channels that do require an FCC license. There are only very specific subcategories of things that you're not allowed to do. And I don't think what Jimmy Kimmel said about Charlie Kirk's assassin, as I think gross and ignorant as it was, falls into any of those categories. And I'm sorry, but Kayleigh is just wrong, just totally wrong when she says that this whole story has nothing to do with the First Amendment. It really does, because a top Trump administration official, the FCC chair, Brendan Carr, literally told that Disney and ABC that they had to take action on Kimmel or risk losing their license. He literally said, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. That is the government bullying them into taking a critic of the administration off air. That is a free speech and First Amendment issue. Now, if they had just made it as a private business decision, I wouldn't care. But the Trump administration had to go and get involved. And now it is a free speech issue. And it does allow Jimmy Kimmel to claim victimhood and cite the First Amendment. But of course, I've already talked about that at length in other videos, so I don't need to rehash all that. I want to touch on the demagoguery of what Kayleigh said about Charlie Kirk. Oh, they're so concerned about Jimmy Kimmel's First Amendment rights. Well, what about all the amendments that Charlie Kirk lost? Guys, I want to be crystal clear with y'all. I'm horrified by Charlie's death. Anyone celebrating it, cheering it on, anyone who supports that kind of thing, I condemn them unequivocally. I've been all over this issue. But to then use him having his rights violated to hand wave away concerns about censorship or violations of the First Amendment is totally dishonest and actually a disgrace to his legacy, because he was a firm believer in free speech and the First Amendment, and he would not want you using his death to justify violations of it. Of that, I am quite sure. And let me, to show you how absurd what she said is, I'll put it in a different context for you. Imagine that a mass shooting has just occurred and innocent people were killed, maybe a school shooting. And they say on MSNBC, oh, everyone, and they're proposing gun bans. Everyone wants to talk about your Second Amendment rights. Well, what about all the constitutional rights that little Timmy lost when he was gunned down? What about his rights? I think that's more important. Don't you care more about little Timmy? You don't care about little Timmy's life and his rights that he lost? You have to give up your guns. No, that's not how rights work. Rights, human rights enshrined in the Constitution, you can't just cite a tragedy to deflect away why those don't matter anymore or why it's okay to violate them. That is demagoguery and emotional manipulation of the highest order. And you're basically saying you don't actually care about these things. You only cared when it was convenient. You only cared when it was your side getting censored. And I find that really, really objectionable. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure to subscribe, like, yada, yada, yada. But also, let's keep talking about this because it's not just Kayla McEnany. It's not just Fox News. We have a Republican senator, Cynthia Lummis, who you may know as the Bitcoin lady. She's like super into crypto and Bitcoin. I've always liked that about her. But anyway, she basically is just like, yeah, that First Amendment thing, nah, never mind. I don't really care about that anymore. She literally kind of said that. Listen to this. This is reporting from Semaphore. Kimmel's suspension prompts free speech Republicans to reconsider their boundaries. Pictures of Cynthia Lummis here. The indefinite suspension of Jimmy Kimmel's TV show amid pressure from the FCC is prompting libertarian-leaning Republicans to consider redrawing their boundaries when it comes to limiting speech. Disney, the parent company of ABC, removed the late-night comedian from its airwaves after a conservative outcry over Kimmel's remarks about Charlie Kirk's assassin culminated in public pressure from FCC Chair Brendan Carr. Carr hinted at further actions against media companies on Thursday, telling CNBC that, quote, "We're not done yet," as President Donald Trump urged NBC to take similar action against two other late-night comedians who have criticized him. That's complicated things in Washington for a GOP that built itself up to be a champion and protector of free speech. In fact, some Republicans who consider themselves defenders of unfettered speech are getting more comfortable with limiting it. Senator Cynthia Lummis, a Republican from Wyoming, told Semaphore that, quote, "An FCC license, it's not a right. It really is a privilege." Now, we haven't gotten to the horrible thing she said, which is coming yet. But just a point on this, to say it's not a right, it's not a privilege is sort of true. But even when something is not a right, you still do have rights around that thing. So the First Amendment protects Americans from being discriminated against because of their political viewpoints or because of their freedom of the press. And so revoking a license for the wrong reasons can be unconstitutional and can be a violation of your rights, even if you don't have an inherent right to a license. Think about it like this. If they were to revoke licenses from Black-owned television stations or radio stations, well, there's no right to a license, but you would still be violating their rights because they have a right to not be discriminated against, guaranteed by the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution. Same way the First Amendment applies here, even though there's no right to an FCC license. That's true, but there's still rights that protect you when you have a license. So she's just not really correct here. But here's where we get to the awful part of what she said. Under normal times, in normal circumstances, I tend to think that the First Amendment should always sort of be the ultimate right and that there should be almost no checks and balances. I don't feel that way anymore. I feel like something's changed culturally, and I think there needs to be some cognizance that things have changed, she added. We just can't let people call each other these kinds of insane things and then be surprised when politicians get shot and the death threats they are receiving and then try to get extra money for security. Excuse me? She basically just said, I used to believe the First Amendment was really important and should always protect people's rights to speak their mind, but I don't really believe that anymore, actually. What? You don't believe in our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, something you've built your career around saying you support and defend? You should resign or be kicked out of office. What do you mean? The First Amendment is first for a reason in the Bill of Rights. It is our most fundamental right. And you're saying, things are feeling hot lately in the culture and the discourse, so maybe forget about that. That is disgraceful and absolutely wild. It's also ass backwards because it's actually the most contentious times, right, where you have to defend our rights the most strenuously because they're not at risk so much during the peaceful times, during the calm times. They are at risk after a tragedy. They are at risk in the midst of a bubbling hot culture war. And that is exactly when we need to defend them, because that's when the rights are at risk. That's why the First Amendment is a thing, to protect our right to speak our minds, even when things get crazy and things get heated. Because that's the whole point, is to not allow the passions of the moment to override our fundamental rights and liberties. That's the whole point of the Bill of Rights. And if you do not understand that, you do not belong in the United States Senate, Cynthia Loomis. You absolutely do not. I still can't believe she really said that. Like, she just came out and said it. Yeah, I used to believe First Amendment was really important. I don't really think that anymore, actually. Things are a little spicy lately, so maybe not. Girl, what? Girl. Crazy. That's absolutely crazy to me. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure to subscribe if you aren't yet. Hit the like button while you're at it. And let me know in the comments if you're appreciating these quick hit style videos. But regardless, make sure you're subscribed to my podcast, Brad vs. Everyone, for full episodes, links in the description, where I take on media insanity, political madness, and internet craziness, all from an independent perspective. The links are down below for that. And regardless, guys, we'll be back with more real soon.